Good day, everyone. Welcome
Hello,
to another episode of Wheels Up Live. I'm ID Bound,
and I'm Felix.
and as always, we're going to start with our news of the week. Although, as some of you may have seen, our feature this week, we're going to get into one of those great flight sim battlegrounds in which
Yes,
nobody comes out a victor and everyone comes
never.
out grumpy. What are your best add-on? Best out-on
Absolutely.
planes, not
Yeah.
scenery or tools or something else. We can
No,
save those for another day and drive everybody bananas.
sure.
Um, but our first news of the week story comes back to our friends at TFDI, and
TFDI.
they
Tree
have
Fitty.
announced finally that they are quote unquote feature complete.
Sorry.
Although they've also announced that they got plenty of bug squashing to
Yes,
do, and despite having said they were feature complete, I think there were at least a couple of things they said are going to come later.
sure.
That one might argue are features, but perhaps feature complete for what they wanted for launch.
Yeah.
And I will say that when you look at that list of features that they say they have, want, have completed, etc., it's a pretty broad base of features that I think you and I would argue are good, solid features for an add on in this price range.
Yes.
However, I also know that one of the big question marks, because you and I haven't even had a chance to try the feature complete version yet, it's not
We have
been
not.
pushed to the collector's edition owners just yet,
Has
is
not.
what's happened with the flight model.
Oh my God. I don't even want to. It's the current flight model, pitch authority. This doesn't make sense. This has been and credit to Scott Scott here. Scott Scott, if you he's a Twitch streamer by the same name, Scott Scott. Go check him out. Absolutely fantastic. I think he has a YouTube channel as well, but I know primarily it's Twitch. Check out Scott Scott. We love Scott Scott. He's in my private server that I run, and
He's
we
what we would call a friend
hooligans.
of the channel.
He is definitely a friend of the channel, and so credit to him. There's a few of his screenshots here that are interspersed, which is funny. A segue about the TFDI is people thought the model was trash and it's not round. Just look at this screenshot. Clearly, the fuselage is round.
Yes,
Now, I will personally agree that I think that there are some of the harder fuselage lines that may be a little bit too um, hard. They're a little too dense, or however you would say that. I don't know. I'm not a modeler. I'm not a
yes, me
texture
neither.
person, so I do not know the correct terminology for it. But there's some fuselage lines, especially in the longitudinal axis, that just they look a little hard, and they can lend to that kind of like what people were saying was the Zeppelin shape. And it's not that, by the way. I've used it. Even the models before were never Zeppelin shaped. I think our biggest gripe was that it looked like deli ham for a while. I don't know where that came from. Looked like some boar's head deli ham, but
Quality. That's quality deli ham. Darn it.
yeah, it is quality deli ham. But my no, but anyway, I think the pitch authority's not right. Right, like you could literally just do slaw deflection and the thing would come right off. The runway, and it just seemed like it didn't need enough effort. Now, again, I am not a type rated MD-11 pilot. Okay, so me saying this means like basically it's a thing about flight model and Dulles. I know you know this. Completely subjective. It is probably the most subjective thing we have in our hobby because at the end of the day, well, no, I know why you're shaking your head, but at the
Yeah,
end of the day, what you think about pitch authority for an ad, I think about pitch authority for an add-on, or roll authority,
yeah.
or yaw authority, or whatever, right? Or how it's supposed to handle on flaps 15, right? Like that's all of that is completely can be completely subjective, right? The modeler or the goal is the suspension of disbelief. That's the ultimate goal. That
Right.
is what that is your aim, right? Suspension of disbelief. And so neither one of us have had a chance to try it. I think that I'm hopeful. I've gotten some kind of like, because we know some of the QA people, we've gotten some kind of inside reports. I think this really is going to be a watershed release
Right.
As far as now, what I would argue is this is the build we should have got originally, but that's a different argument entirely. So,
How's that argument going? Are we winning? Are we win? Is any of us winning this argument? I don't think so. But I agree with you. On the flight model point, I think
mhm.
we all know that the MD-11 was not a paper airplane,
Yes,
right? It's not a
mm,
toy. It's not a Cessna 172.
exactly.
It doesn't turn on a dime. It doesn't climb on a dime. None of those things are going to be quote unquote true. And even if it is input sensitive in the real world, like the 747, you could kind of fly it with your fingertips practically. Nevertheless, the plane has a certain element of built-in cumbersomeness because of its sheer size. And
Yeah,
the MD-11 is not a small plane, I think you're expecting to get, as you say, the suspension of disbelief that you are flying a heavy.
yeah.
Loaded down with cargo from Memphis to Anchorage or something. Well, you got
Sure.
your fuel on there, you got a lot of cargo, and I think we've experienced that it didn't really make you feel that way just yet. But hopefully,
No,
when we have a chance to try this new one, it'll be spot on. I'm hopeful
we're
for Colin and his team because I
yeah.
don't think this has been a tough road for them.
I
It's
think
been
it has been a tough road, and
a
so
really tough road.
here's what I'm gonna say. I think we're critical, and I know I've been very critical in the chats where not a lot of people have access, but we as collectors edition owners, we
Right.
have we paid for a little more in behind the curtain. I have personally been more critical of the flight model thing because I think you got to get the plane to fly right, in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion. Get
Right.
the plane to fly right first,
That's step
and
one.
yeah, and so I think that they didn't do a lot of that, and I think they're now more people are starting to like, hey, what's going on with this? Why
Yeah.
why is it behaving this way? And I think that got the ball rolling. Of like, okay, maybe we actually have to address this.
Yeah. I wonder on that question that you raised, and it's a great question. Um, if from a programming perspective, they needed to have more structure around it before they could tweak the flight model. Like, is the LNAV complete? Is some of these things done so
Sure.
that when the flight model goes, there those things work together. I don't know the answer to that question, but it was
Well, I know
plain
that
that the flight model work was kind of in the background.
I know that the big thing of the MD-11 was that the LSAS, so the lateral stability augmentation system, I believe it is the LSAS. It was put in place because Douglas, in their infinite wisdom, decided to make the horizontal stabilizer smaller, right? Because they wanted a better cruise efficiency. That's literally what it was about. It was about cruise efficiency. The problem is if you make the horizontal stabilizer smaller, but you've made the plane longer and you've made it way heavier and you've changed the center of lift, all of those add in to make a plane that does not have really good pitch authority,
Yeah.
right? And so a lot of pilots early on complained about that, and Douglas had to go back to the drawing board. And so you have this LSAS, which I mean, I'm sure smarter people than I think it actually moves the whole tail plane, kind of like how your trim works, right?
I'm certain of one
Where
thing, that there'll
when
be at
you
least 5 people in the CE chat who will happily correct you in live time
yeah,
if they're watching.
if they're watching. But yeah, so the thing is, whereas like the typical elevator is just on the end of the actual horizontal stabilizer,
Yeah.
when you trim, you're trimming
This
the
thing's
whole
shifting the whole
stabilizer.
unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're trimming the whole stabilizer. So I think that's what the LSAS does is it augments as you're making commands, it also pitches it just to give you a little bit extra help. Right.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I don't know. I think it could be that. That makes sense, right? Because it's a system that's electronic that combines with the flight control system to kind of make it all work, right? And so that could be a big part of it. So
You know, just to come back for just a moment, you want to talk about modeling. One of the things that people talk about a lot is they really hate, clean planes, these older planes, they get beat up. Give credit where credit is due to him, to TFDI on that one. You look at this livery; it is dirty as all get out. You look at the cockpit, And you can see some videos, by the way. For those of you who aren't looking around, there's a number of videos available online, including one just
Hmm.
the other day from a guy named Father Time, who's been
Yep.
helping them, who used to fly the MD-11 at some point. And you look at that cockpit; it is beat up beyond all beat up. So, there has been a lot of detail work that is in this plane, even if it's taken a long time. Well, okay.
Sure.
So our another story for this week is, the AI ATC or other ATC program options that are
Hmm.
out there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to get the MD-11 off my head. The other programs that are out there, we talked about Beyond ATC the other week. Say
Sure.
Intentions is another one. Now Say Intentions.ai, the model approach is different. This one is actually an AI driven base, whereas Beyond ATC is a programmatic base in which there are AI voices. But essentially, they've tried to program in most of the pieces as to how it works, rather than using AI to do the handling elements. So, Say Intentions is working from the AI perspective. And one of the things where that approach is very different is that because of that, AI is expensive for developers to subscribe to, and they were charging currently $30 a month for Say Intentions. And
Sure.
I'll add to that they're still working. They were still working through the IFR piece. It's not complete. VFR apparently works a little better. I haven't tried that, but I watched a number of videos try to get feel for it. One of the things that just happened was that there's a new version of Chat GPT, GPT 4.0, 4.0 Omni is what that stands for. Again, it's part of that whole OpenAI environment, Chat GPT, as you know. And in fact, they actually changed their website name to chatgpt.com. And Microsoft owns 49% of that, and all this other stuff. But the upshot is that one of the big differences is that they've changed the pricing around for developers, as I understand it, but also the response time of the AI system is faster. So already, Say Intentions from their little bit of testing is saying it's going to be faster, better, and cheaper. And they're saying that they're probably going to have a price reduction, and they'll probably tell everybody what it is at FS Expo, which, by the way, as all of you know, up in our corner, we're a media co-sponsor with FS Expo. We had Evan on last week to talk about it,
Yep.
and if you want to register, there's a link down below. In any event, uh, that's a big development because I think we're seeing that there is an environment where these ATC programs are becoming maybe some really great options versus some of the online options, or if you're
Sure.
just trying to learn, or if you don't like flying on Unicom, or whatever your reasons are, and there could be a lot of them. These other programs are starting to jump into that breach, and the fact that there's two very different styles, and of course there are other programs that are already out there. People talk about those, FS HUD. There's some other ones, but these two new ones, Beyond ATC and Say Intentions, are plainly trying to, I guess, not entirely, you know, plow entirely new ground, but they're taking a different perspective at it.
Sure.
And I'm on the BATC Discord and I'm on the Say Intentions Discord, and I'll say the Beyond ATC. I mean, there's 18,000 people on there. The number of people who have bought the collector support edition, which really gets you nothing other than a little bit of extra early access stuff whenever they have it, but it's just to support them, is an extra $30. It's shocking how many people have done it. So obviously, there's some real demand for some of these products.
Well, I will say I remember. I think it was Eagle Dynamics did. They may have done a study, or they may have used sales figures or something, but they were saying that really of the multiplayer base for their sim, which obviously is DCS,
Yeah.
was only like 20%, or it might have even been less. It might have been like 10%. You've got like 80 to 90% of people who are flying offline. Now, I started flying offline, by the way. I
Right.
only flew solely offline for most of it. I only started doing VATSIM back in 2022, And I regret it because I wish everybody would get on VATSIM. I think VATSIM's fun. I know that it has its foibles and everything, but I think VATSIM's great. But we both use VATSIM, and I know you use Beyond ATC and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Well, I've been testing
for a lot of people where like me, where it's a VATSIM only, maybe we sometimes forget that the vast majority of community out there are not flying online. They're not flying on a network. And even if they're in DCS, they're not flying on multiplayer servers. They're flying scripted campaigns, or they're doing something that's not doesn't have a multiplayer element. And so, like, I really do think that these things, because I remember Pro ATCX, and I thought it was cool at the time when I tried it, but just listening to the Beyond ATC, just seeing what Say Intentions is going to bring to it, like, it blows that out of the water, like completely out of the water. So,
right. And, definitely, it's really interesting, and it's developing so fast.
yes,
I mean, that's one of the things that's really surprised me. I will say, I did a flight in Beyond ATC yesterday, and I'm reminded, like with so many things, there's a ways to go.
sure.
It was one of those ones where I'm sort of like, as the program semi lost its mind, or but that happens. It's just, I think, actually programming ATC is wildly complex, and getting it to do what you want it to do, and getting it to be consistent. And there's a lot of challenges there. But I also gave them the feedback on it, right? So, and I think and I've seen the same thing with the Say Intentions videos where there's work to be done, but they're doing it. And I think the more when I look at the level of interest and support for these products, I think that there's a good hope for the future. And it also reminds me that particularly for the AI driven control, as opposed to programmatic driven control with AI voices, but the AI driven control, you would think that Asobo and Microsoft might be in one of the best positions to take advantage of the technology that's available in what is now the biggest, AI base, which of course is their ChatGPT base. Although I mean, there's other companies that have them. Google has it, and I mean, there's a lot going on in that field. But you would think that they'd be in a good
Well,
position.
who knows? I mean, you
right.
look at how they brought in AnyBuilds. They brought in now FFX, so Flight Effects, FX.
Gaia,
They're bringing in
Orbx,
third-party Gaia. They're
working
bringing
title.
Orbit. They're bringing third parties into here. Who knows that 2024, maybe not now, but maybe in the future, either Say Intentions or Beyond ATC or both, or their own thing.
Right.
But who knows if these things aren't going to be incorporated into the base sim. I can tell you, I would love that because, like, I think that would be. I think that the thing is all of these things are beneficial to the net user because not everybody's me or you, and we have to kind of make sure we're shaping a hobby that everybody can enjoy because that's the ultimate aim, right?
Yes. And I do feel sometimes as if I don't know as much about what the majority of simmers are up to. And I think that we probably are making some incorrect assumptions from the hardcore crowd that we know.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. Okay. Well, all right. So one of the other, speaking of hardcore folks, let's talk about one of the other developments that came up this week, which is the long-awaited release of X-Plane 12.1 beta.
Yeah.
And I personally do not have X-Plane 12 installed right now. Part of that is I had reformatted, I had done some things with my computer, and my initial reaction was, I'm not putting X-Plane 12 back on here until I see what happens with this beta. And once again, screenshot. Thank you, Scott. Credit to you, sir. Here's your screenshots are awesome. I've been looking at what has come out, and of course, one of the big elements of this update was graphics
Yeah.
and some weather things and a bunch of other things, but graphics was one of the big ones. The things that I have seen so far have not immediately convinced me to reinstall it, but I think maybe we're getting there. I don't know. Have you had a reaction? Have you tried it?
I have not tried it. I probably should because I actually we're going to talk about one of the add-ons
Yes.
that's actually really good for X-Plane. But I probably should. I downloaded it because it's on Steam, and so I'm ready to go. I just have to load it up. But I know that every single add-on, because I don't fly it all the time, has an update, and there's a whole process with that, and it's kind of a pain in the butt with X-Plane versus other sims, right? And I think that is this a too little too late conversation? Is that what we're talking about? And so
No.
I don't know, because here's the thing. We can talk about X-Plane 11. X-Plane 11 didn't get good until like 0.5, 11.5, right?
Right.
Like that's when X-Plane, that's when you saw like the major, like huge, like long haul, high fidelity airliners that people have been asking for in X-Plane forever. That's when that all came to fruition. So, I'm hoping it doesn't take them till 0.5 of 12 to like get their ducks in a row and make sure everything's good. But, I have to try it is what I've got to say. Like now, if I try it, and because there's certainly a fair amount of add-ons, obviously the 742, the, the Challenger, whenever in the weird blue moon that I think that I want to try that, and then I get in it and then I don't want to try it because it's a little much. But,
right. It's rare for you to say an add-on is too much.
Yeah, it's anyway, that's
Right.
a different conversation. But this is obviously the Flight Factor 757, which is, again, that's their best product so far. I know they got the 777, but there's not really a lot that says, hey, I want to go back and I want to play this sim. Now, I was talking to somebody actually, and they were like, "Hey, it stopped raining," because apparently all it used to do was just rain all the time.
Right.
Like if it even, and it just rained, right? And I remember the flight where I got the Aer Lingus shot, I couldn't even see the runway until like 300 feet because the rain was just so bad, right? And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in real life, because it certainly does. I've driven in some of that weather, so I can't imagine the difference of going 70 miles per hour versus going 170 miles per hour on final.
Sure.
Sure. With what the face like that. But yeah, I just don't know. I'm hopeful, but like it's a wait and see kind of attitude with X-Plane at this point.
So I watched a chunk of Black Box 711 did a stream with it, and he was trying to run the
Challenger.
What's that?
What add-on, Challenger? Or?
No, he's in the Tolus. He was trying to run some Ortho XP, and it just crapped out on him and that sort of thing. So he came back in. They took that out. The thing is that it does seem like the anti-aliasing, some of those problems have definitely been tamped down quite a bit.
Yeah. From
what I was seeing in the stream. And I think it's one of those sims where it has these moments sometimes where you think, wow, that looks really amazing. It looks great. Then you have these other times when you say, I'm sorry, did I fall into P3D? I'm confused. And so I've never, I don't know, there's always something with it where I always find a bit of kind of frustration, or I'm just not itching to do it. But at the same time, I don't think XP is going anywhere. It really has its adherents. They're still actively developing. They brought some developers we know on board, at least on a part-time basis, to work with them to put systems in. And I do think that there's, it's a sim that I think is well respected in terms of what it does, its flight model, and it's never going to look and feel like MSFS, and you just have to decide that's not what's important, because you know what, you can get into P3D and go have a nice flight too, even though it doesn't. That's right. It just doesn't look that great. But on the other hand, P3D is sort of dying on the vine. P3D is dying on the vine, and X-Plane doesn't want to die on the vine, so they're going to have to keep moving those things.
I don't think X-Plane will ever die. Their fan base is the most staunch. It's the most,
It's very staunch. I would agree with that.
it's super staunch. It's very hardcore, and they're just really about their sim. They love Laminar research. I think there's kind of a cultism behind Austin. You know,
sure.
You could,
of course there is.
You could take that for what it's worth, but like, they love their sim. They love the add-ons in the sim. You know, they probably think Microsoft Flight Simulator is a joke, and that's kind of, I'm not really, you know, that's okay. I just don't, you know, here's what I'm going to say. I have all the sims, all right? And
yes, as do I.
they're all installed actually right now on my PC, okay?
Right.
So I love flight simming. That's my thing. That's always been my thing. It's always will be my thing. When my first flight sim was actually a dual copy of Microsoft Combat Flight Simulator, which was old World War II, shoot 'em up, you know, kill BF-109s, right? That's great. and then it was FS-98. So like, I've always, you know, kind of been a proponent of the more is better. The more options we have, the better we are off, right? Because I don't want my, I'm just going to say, I do not want Microsoft to be the only game in town. I know people want that. You really do not want that. Listen, we had a duopoly in Sims for damn near 10 years. And I don't think this hobby was stagnant. This hobby was not better for it. It was actually worse. You do not want duopolies. You really want P3D to survive. I hate to say it like that, but that's you want it to survive.
I think P3D may survive, but for reasons that have nothing to do with the flight sim community directly.
And you really want another simulator to just crop up in there that's obviously DCS, stuff like that. But you really do. You want like an Infinite Flight. You want an Aero FS.
See, that's one of the things I underestimate. I think the likes of Infinite Flight, it's probably quite popular, would be my guess. Yeah. We know that X-Plane has said their mobile was one of their
I think that is their big seller, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So all of those things.
So that's what I'm saying, and we're going to talk about add-ons, and we're also going to talk about how monopolies on add-ons are kind of not a good thing either. But I'm digressing. I'm getting ahead of myself.
All right. Well, we got a couple little extra bits of news we're kind of haul through here so we can get to our feature. We talked about this one multiple times on this show, and the Duke has released from Black Square, and it's I would say that the hype for it seems to mostly be justified. I've seen a few little nits and picks, as you might expect, but they did their own for the turbines. They've done their own model, which I understand is about as close as we've gotten so far to an accurate PT6 model.
PT6, yeah.
And it looks amazing. You know, my one and only comment in looking at all the videos and thinking about buying it, etc., is just that our GA plane options are so robust. I don't know how often I would fly it. It's not a mainstay of the GA world, right? Yeah. It's it's not a 172. It's not a Piper Arrow. It's it's a real niche specialty item, and that's my only thing. It's just sort of how do I feel a connection to it? For me personally, maybe not that much, but it looks freaking amazing.
So just to go on that, that's how you have to treat GA. GA is like owning a car, right? So like it's there's an emotional aspect to general aviation that speaks to you. Obviously we get that with Concorde, but the thing with Concorde also is that you're never going to be able to fly it ever.
Right.
Like ever. Right. Like it's literally never going to happen. Right. And so I think with GA there's this sense of like I could actually own a Duke, right? Like or at least sometime in my lifetime, or at least fly one, if I ever did, something. There's a sense of that. So I think that with the GA stuff, for me personally, it's what you like. Okay, so I like the single engine turboprops. That's my jam. I love that. I think that's great. I love that kind of flying. I'm not necessarily too keen on piston twins, other than that if somebody came out with a really nice like a Baron or something like
there is one. The Black Square has a Baron. It's pretty nice.
I haven't tried it, so I'll
but you have tried their TBM.
and I like it. I enjoy
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, I'm with you on that
But
one.
the
It
point
makes
is
sense.
that I think it's whatever speaks to you, right? Like I'm not
Sure.
going to get a 170. I'll go build hours in a 172 before I get a 172 in a sim.
Fair
just
enough.
just
Fair enough.
just speaking plainly,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, if you were building
So,
hours, you might actually want one in the sim. That sort of
well, if it was AccuSim, yeah, of course, because like
right. And let's
that's
face it,
what you
we're going to
want.
have an AccuSim 172 in MSFS. I mean, I'll be shocked if it's not the next product from A2A.
So
Maybe I won't be
so we
shocked,
got the
but I'll
data.
be a little surprised. How's that? That'd be
Yeah.
my
Oh, and
guess.
by the way, for those of you who don't know, there is a piston version of this aircraft as well. It's
Yes.
not just
Yes. There's a piston. And
it
a
started
turbine.
as a piston. The turbine is a conversion.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you can get those from Just Flight if you're interested.
Yes.
And it's $70 for the pair and $47.99 for individual variants.
It's a little steep, but I guess for what you're getting, right? You know, and this is where you said you really have to love that.
Right. Well, I think they were trying to. I think they're really trying to go right at the A2A as a competitor, and it's priced similarly. In another bit of news, Navigraph has made yet another example of why they are a juggernaut, a real juggernaut in this thing. They are working on rolling out takeoff, performance, and landing calculators in SimBrief.
I just realized this was
What
for the
more can you say?
77W hint hint. Did you notice that? This is for the 777-300ER. I did not notice that.
I did notice that actually. I did indeed.
Oh man!
I mean,
more nuggets of more kernels of.
for those of you who have Navigraph, you know what an amazing product it is, and I don't.
Yes.
we're not trying to shill for anybody, but geez, I mean, what you're getting with Navigraph is kind of amazing for
if there is anything I would say that is compulsory at this point to get for the sim, it's the one thing that I tell people: this is worth the money.
Right.
It's a Navigraph subscription. Like of all the other things that you can get, it's universal, right? They have the Nav data center, so it works with any add-on that's in. So you're going to get fresh data. You're going to get fresh ARAG data. They bought SimBrief, but you know what they did that was amazing? They didn't charge you for SimBrief, so people are still able to use SimBrief for free, and they're reaping the benefits of whatever they're doing without having to pay a Navigraph subscription. Navigraph doesn't have to do that, by the way.
No,
they don't have to do that. So I think it's almost like a good guy Navigraph, right? Like it's this is awesome. We were talking earlier before the stream. This is a little bit more realistic, actually, because a lot of especially U.S. airlines, they get all their takeoff data. It's just uplinked via ACARS. They get it in the CDU. They just have to verify it, and then off you go, right?
Yep.
And so this is a very, very good tool. Also, it's a great tool for people like me who don't want to use TopCat anymore. To be quite honest.
Right, or you can't get a new profile for TopCat or 100 other things.
TopCat, yeah, exactly, yeah.
The thing about Navigraph, I'll just add to that is, here's a group that really isn't facing a lot of competition, but man, they're constantly doing stuff and innovating, and it's fantastic. It really is. And okay, maybe if you're a strictly VFR flyer, you don't need it, you don't care. That's fine. But for the folks who want to fly IFR, who want to fly airliners, who want to go, the usual stuff that a lot of us are familiar with, I don't know how you do it without Navigraph. And hats off to them on the stuff that they are doing. Okay, so the other bit of news of the week here that I wanted to touch on was just that Sim Update 15 is supposedly coming May 23rd. I've been using the beta. It seems to work fine. The last update essentially rolled back the implementation of a game development kit that had thrown some kind of very big wrinkle into the Xbox applications. And I think they've decided that whatever fixes they were trying were not working, and they've decided to move on from that, which I think just makes a certain amount of sense. At some point, they just had to do it.
Well, so. Yeah, I mean this is kind of the sunset of 2020 at least. Like, I'm not saying this is the last update they'll ever have. It won't be, but supposedly this is the last update we're getting prior to the release of 2024. And so, and probably anything after 2024 is either going to be bug fixing, or it's going to be, maybe some retrograded features make their way back into 2020. But I don't see any massive improvements beyond whatever this is. So it's, as some people have described it, it's 4 years of trying to get everything they wanted to do into one update. And so I think there's a little column A, little column B on that. I think there's
perhaps,
a smidge of truth to it.
15 updates in 4 years is a fair amount, and some of those have been quite
a pretty
large
massive overhaul. Yeah.
Not to mention all the world updates and all the other things that they have added to this sim. They have not
I hope they've nailed that WASM bug, because I know that TFDI found one of the kind of big ones. Yeah, because that WASM bug is a killer for everybody.
Yeah.
It really is. That's like, everyone's like, oh, my plane crashed. I'm like, I'm almost positive it's WASM, and like that's not.
Admittedly, I've not had a lot of WASM crashes, but I get it, and it's annoying as hell, and there's just nothing to tell anybody.
And they've all been in the 737.
Okay.
I've had 4 of them. Okay. The worst one was, it was on final in the Lakeland. And it wasn't a soft crash where like I could still fly, the engines were going, and I could still move, but like nothing else worked. This was, the plane just went, everything died, and just
well, I got to tell you, trying to get a couple of things for today's show, I fired up P3D to grab a couple of things, and it crashed 3 times in some of the things I was trying to do. So there you go.
Do you have the latest driver, man? And I'm not trying
which latest driver? NVIDIA driver?
For NVIDIA.
No, first one was, and Umberto, you didn't hear this, Quetzalcoatl, or whatever the hell it likes to call itself in GSX, crashed that thing right out. Then I was using FSI panel to move the plane around, crash, just that usual stuff. All right.
That was your fault. That was user error.
Oh, yeah, user error. Okay. So anyway, those are our news of the week, and we're already way into the show. So we're going to switch over to our big topic today, which is your best airplane add-ons. And what could possibly go wrong here?
Oh my gosh, I just realized Scott's like, I recognize that.
Yeah, good. Well, we gave you credits. We gave you credit, Scott, because you are the man when it comes to making the screenshots. And I thought you couldn't represent particularly the MD-11 any better than that screenshot that you made. So thank you. Okay, so what we are talking about here is our best airplane add-ons. Now, first of all, I'm going to tell you one, both Felix and I have come up with sort of our own little top 5 list.
Sure.
2, obviously, it's just our opinions, naturally, and everyone's got opinions when it comes to flight sim. 3, it is not sim specific.
No.
And 4, well, we're going to have some honorable mentions too, because, hey, there are a lot of great add-ons out there.
Yes.
And, part of at least my thinking was some of the very best add-ons are in a niche zone where the appeal for me, you, maybe most folks isn't quite there, even though the add-on's incredible. Case in point, the Challenger.
Yeah.
So which is not on this list, but it's in the honorable mentions. All right.
I think that yeah. So
well, Felix, you lead off. Where would you like to? Where would you like to start? And I will.
We're going to talk about. We're going to talk about an add-on that I've had for 18 years, in various variations. You have it.
I do. I love it.
A lot of people. MDG 747 Queen of the Skies. Technically, this is the second iteration, so this is version 2,
right?
That came out for P3D back in 2018.
Wow, yeah, that's good recall. I couldn't tell you when it came out.
Yeah, it was 2018, and I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's a 747, first of all, so like you've won there already.
Right, you're winning.
And so the thing about the 747, and this was even back when I bought it, and it was my first real long hauler, and I bought it way, 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 way back. My mom got it for me. I remember seeing something about it, and I wasn't big in the community. I was more like I love flight sim, but I was more like a Call of Duty kid. Played a lot of. If I was doing multiplayer stuff or any community interaction, it was more so on that end. So I got this, and I mean, man, like the amount of customization, the options, like you have the PV view, the oh my god, what is it? The Paravisual display that BA and Qantas used. Um, you have the different kinds of RMI options, analog, ISFD. You could select between the Boeing radios and the Gables. You can select where the the auto brake selector, whether it's on the glare shield, whether it's on the the pedestal, and the list goes on. And then you have all the engine choices. You have the 400, the converted freighter. You have the domestic variant that Japan Airlines ANA used. You have the extended range. You have the extended range freighter. You have the freighter itself. You have the combi, and then of course you have the Dash 8, for the Dash 8, and you have the freighter, and you have the Intercontinental, which is the passenger version as well. And they're all really well done. I will say the LNAV is 100% like the weak spot in this aircraft, just like all the PMDG add-ons.
Yep.
But other than that, the sounds, like especially if you have Active Sky, you go through turbulence. Those are some of the most realistic turbulence-related sounds I've heard in an add-on. Period. You can tell they probably went into a real aircraft or had somebody they knew, like, hey, some turbulence comes up, just press record on this.
Right. Right.
And
exactly.
And so now, of course, here you can see things like, obviously it looks like the wing split in 3 places. Clearly at the wing flex, right? Like that's some P3D MS,
Okay.
And no, I know, but the point is I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm going to gush and do this, but I love this add-on. Period, point blank. I am literally planning on taking a week off when this add-on comes out for Microsoft Flight Simulator, just to fly it. I've always had this add-on. I will always have this add-on. I love the 747. So there's another aspect of it too, right? Is a lot of this is the opinion is going to be what our personal real world aircraft preferences are.
Sure.
And we are both huge fans of the 747. So it just kind of naturally fits. But this is honestly, I'm more excited for this add-on than the 777, than the MAX. If they might as well be, apparently, the way Randazzo talks about it. But if PMDG decides to do a 787, don't care. I like this thing. I've always liked it. I always will like it. I think it's a fantastic aircraft. And so that's pretty much it. I mean,
so I love a 747, and this one is on my list as well. I won't lie and tell I'll tell you point blank, over the past 2 days, I probably spent about 4 hours in the Aerowings PSX 747 just with the 2D panels, not even connected to MSFS or anything, just working through some tutorial material where we had, hydraulic failure, and we had a cabin depressurization, just a bunch of stuff to kind of run through some of these pieces and test it out. And the thing about it is that's a flight trainer for people who are actually flying the plane. But PMDG really does get into some of those nooks and crannies of the plane that a lot of other developers are just going to skip. It's just not worth it. And I actually made this screenshot today precisely for that example. So this is actually from the 777, but it works the same in the 747. And this is PMDG in P3D. You can tell I got 2D panels up, and you can see the 3D cockpits behind it. But we're looking at the off-path descent page, and Felix and I were talking about this earlier. As he said, I don't know, I never look at this page, right? And or probably not, and most of us don't. But it's actually kind of an amazing little tool. And even though it's one of those ones that is not high on people's list or noticed, PMDG has it modeled. And the gist of this page is it's telling you, here's my plane, right? It's right near Bovington, coming in for 09 left at Heathrow. Okay. And that's our next waypoint, as you can see at Bravo November. It's 5 miles away. Well, suppose ATC called you up and said, I need you to go to, Lima Alpha 34 Alpha, which is one of these PMDG fake spots, if I recall. But regardless, just hypothetically, it's there, and you say they want you to be there at 3,500 feet. So what this page is telling you is that in the blue circle, if you were outside the blue circle, you could get down there in a clean configuration. You wouldn't even need speed brakes, right? You just go thrust idle and bring your way down. But the white circle is telling you need drag. So if you can look in there, it says too clean, well, minus 3 nautical miles. Well, not going to work. But if you wanted to do it with drag, you've still got another mile where you could retard the throttle and put the speed brakes out, and you can get down there by 3,500 feet. And it's a very handy tool when someone's giving you an instruction, like on one of those really long stars where they're cutting it off. Like say you're coming into Frankfurt, where they got one of those ones where it's like a snake-like star, yes, but they always shortcut you. Well, if the shortcut is, and particularly in something like a 747, where the shortcut may not work for you because trying to go down and slow down can be very difficult, this is a page that can really help you do that, and just take a quick look at it and check. I mean, you could kind of calculate in your head, you can make a reasonable guess, but it will tell you. And PMDG has modeled that. So that's the kind of thing you see in the PMDG, in addition to all those equipment options and 100 other things that they put into their planes. And now, hopefully, we're going to have fixed up LNAV, VNAV, particularly the LNAV. I mean, VNAV is going to be helped by it. VNAV will be helped by the nav update. Yeah, yes, the implication is we're going to be getting where everyone has kind of wanted to go.
And CPDLC and all that other good stuff.
So I think that brings up another plane that's on both of our lists, which is the PMDG 737 in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Good. Yeah.
So one of the reasons why it's on the list, besides the fact that, it just does what it does and it's going to do it, it's a competent plane, it's performance-wise, it's very well optimized. Again, It has all of the features that you can kind of want in a 737, except FMC really needs an update, software update, I think, a little bit behind. And obviously, we're still waiting for the next round of the LNAV update with the new nav data format, which we hope will be pushed back. The other reason why I have it on the list is, the 737 is a workhorse plane around the globe. It's a fun plane to fly. It's got a nice combination of automated systems and manual systems, and PMDG just does it well. That's it. It's it in a nutshell. You can get in this plane, it's going to work.
Yep. We know some type-rated pilots who have said that this is a pretty accurate approximation, as within limit within the sim, obviously, to real life. Now, obviously, I'm going to be critical Craig here and say that I've never liked the nose shape, and it annoys me. There's certain 3/4 angles when you're trying to do because I do screenshots, a lot. You've seen them, and so.
You're no Scott.
When you do that,
do some screenshots.
Yeah, Scott, yeah. Well, Scott says he's got a 4090. So when I get a 4090, we'll have competitions then. But it's one of those things where if you do the front 3/4, it's just never been there. And I know a lot of people like, oh, this is a P3D port. At the end of the day, the plane just works. It works well. It's like you said, it's fun to fly. Oh, by the way, my favorite thing about it. And we've actually done this, and we've done it with other people. Your Controls works with it, so we could do a shared mostly. But I mean, it's enough. It's enough to where you can get a good flight in, and so there's things like that, right? Once they update the nav data and things like that, it's going to be a really stout airplane. And obviously, I am excited for the MAX. I know I said I'm not, as excited because I'm not. I love the 747, but I am excited for the MAX because that adds another real world element of now I have another plane to play with, and I have more routes options that are opened up to me. And I know that a lot of them just do the routes that the NG did, but there are some things that have been added. Like Southwest has done a lot of stuff to Hawaii now that they have the MAX. They do a lot more than they did before, and so
I think
they do Vegas. Personally, They do Vegas to
Hawaii. Yeah, why
to
not?
Hawaii now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't doing it in the NG.
The one thing for the Max, I don't care as much about the Max. I'm probably in the minority. I know a lot of people really excited about the Max. But I think one of the things that might be very interesting with the Max is that in order to do the Max, there are going to have to be some uh, updates to the flight management computer, because I don't think the Max has ever run on the version of the software that PMDG is using.
No.
And hopefully that'll be something that becomes a feature of the regular line in the NGs.
Yeah.
Got my fingers crossed. We shall see. But it'll be interesting to see. I think we also can assume that whatever they're doing on the Max could be a precursor to the 787 that we all think that they're developing. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume they
I mean,
are.
think. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
he
think.
got
We
he
don't
got
know.
really weird. Like again, with digression, but he got really awkward when somebody asked him in that Q&A recently. He was like, "Well, it's kind of in our way," and we're like, "Okay, buddy,
Right.
yeah."
Right. But even if it's
Don't wear your heart on your sleeve, Randazzo. Jesus.
can you blame him for wanting to make one? I can't.
No, it's a great.
Sense.
I think I would love a 787. I think that's a fantastic airplane, and they would do justice to it. So that's we love working title. We love that these things are there, but it's putting a silk hat on a pig, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
I
mean,
and so,
credit to working title, but I understand your point, and I honestly don't expect a plane that's being developed as a base level plane. I mean, I think it's in the premium, but essentially a base level plane to compete with a $70 add-on. I mean, it's just not it's not realistic.
So what do you have up next, man?
Yeah, well, this is one of yours. I love this plane too. Don't get me wrong. Oh yeah.
Oh, I just took this screenshot literally the other day too. Oh man, this is a lot of emotions behind this add-on because I remember the original iteration of this was by a company called SST Sim.
Right.
Some of you guys might know that name way back in Flight Simulator 9.
Wait. Just to clarify, for anybody who's wondering, and I'm sure you're not, this is the FS Labs Concorde.
FSL, yeah. This is technically Concorde 2.
Right.
So this is the second iteration of this aircraft. So I remember when I had this, I had a physical 3-ring binder manual. I remember my mom got pissed at me because I printed it out and it was in color. it was like 200 something pages, and she was really mad about that. But I digress. I really wanted the manual and to fly it and everything. I get this. I bought this add-on and I love it. I don't know. There's so much immersion. There's annoying things too. Like it takes forever to do all of the checklists. I think that's a little annoying.
Ooh,
yeah. Like you'll be. I was at Reunion and like the way you taxi onto those runways is you back taxi, right?
Yeah.
So you back taxi onto 1-4 and then 1-2 to take off. Well, by the time I'm almost down to 1-2 to do the turnaround, he's doing the little throttle test for the reversers. And they take like way too long to get to those points. But I mean, this particular bird pushed the limit of that sim. I would argue beyond, because there's a lot of people who literally that have it, they can't fly it because like there's just it's so
very difficult.
It's very very demanding, but it's very well. The team that made it, from Andrew to Norman, because the Fraser stuff that I forget his name, I think it's Fraser.
Yes, it's Fraser. I think it might be Gale.
Yeah, Fraser Gale. That dude, the Andrew. These are minds that just know this plane inside and out. Yep. And they made a reproduction of the plane, and it's to me, it's one of the most beautiful, if not one of the most amazing aircraft we've ever seen in our lifetimes.
And they didn't just make a reproduction of the plane; they made a reproduction of every frame, every airframe, not just every airframe is represented.
Yeah, they're all 14 of them. The only thing I will say is that there are not the differences, and this may come in the MSFS version.
Right, we'll see.
But there are not differences between the Air France cockpits and the BA, and they chose the BA. Now I will tell you that it's not so different. It's not like it was a night and day.
Of course not. But
It's literally the same as like with Boeing does in the 747 or any aircraft where there's all sorts of little options that each airline can use to customize, right? It's the same exact thing. Air France wanted it one way, BA wanted it another, and obviously all those guys are BA guys. They grew around up in England, so BA was going to be the clear dominant winner in that. Even though I will say they did really good on the French voices, even though I do not understand what they're saying, but I figured out my way around it.
Well, that's good. Yeah, no, it's one heck of an add-on.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one,
and it is coming to MSFS maybe in the next 10 years. Who knows? That's a joke because
that's an FSL joke. I mean, what else can you say? It is what it is.
Yeah, they're because we are waiting for their
anything.
Add-ons.
All they have said is we are working. Let me quote one of them: 101% on MSFS. Except when Leftera said, "Well, we're also doing some work for our commercial customers." So to the extent that they're working on simmer side stuff, home simmer stuff, it's MSFS right now. But what that is, I don't know. Could be Concorde, could be the buses, it could be both. I've always assumed it's both, but I don't know. It's they really like to say absolutely nothing. So they're fairly consistent, which actually brings us to an Airbus product. Now, we actually have two Airbus products between the two of us. I put this one on here because, well, let's face it. This is the Phoenix. They have set some new benchmarks for, I think, a lot of people in terms of what these planes look like from a modeling perspective and combining that with high fidelity systems. Now, they started with ProSim base, which helped them, but then I think they quickly found out that the ProSim base, as good as it was, also created a lot of limitations for them. And instead of just saying, well, they are what they are, they went ahead and tried to really work the plane again, not entirely from the ground up, of course, but make some really major revisions to it, as well as bringing out a new engine variant. And obviously, they've said they're working on an A319 and an A321. But when they did all of that, they also added some really nice quality of life features in a way similar to the other Airbus product we're going to talk about, in terms of some things like GSX integration. They had Hoppy CPDLC right out of the gate. So, I mean, I think that they recognize that there's a craving in the community for high quality immersion along with a high quality plane. I think that's something that FS Labs recognized with the Concorde. It too integrates seamlessly, more or less, with GSX, which is probably hard to do. And, again, the A320, it's a workhorse.
Yeah,
it's a workhorse plane, etc. Now, my one beef with Phoenix from the start, and I still feel it sometimes when I'm flying it, I never have the same level of confidence that it's going to do what I expect it to do based on the flight mode that I'm in compared to the PMDG. And that is just, I don't know. It mostly works absolutely fine, and they have definitely fixed a couple of weird things that tended to happen along the way, like sudden accelerations to 250 knots on approach and some things that were peculiar. And I find when I fly the plane now, which is not super often, but I fly it. I've done a few flights in it just recently. It's reached that level where for $60 or 50 pounds, you cannot go wrong.
Nope. I will say, this is what I would say. I do not like the transitional physics on the last 50 feet of landing. They still got to work on that. And I know that they are working on it, but they really gotta nail that. Because if you do flaps 3, man, we were talking to, actually, High Ping was in here. He's speaking. I'm going to mention him because I know he loves when we talk about him in any setting. He was in the chat. He was in the chat. But no, he was talking about how he knows it's not correct technique, but that if you start the flare at 50 feet, and basically put the throttle to idle, you'll be good. But he had a good point.
Right,
Is
which
that
should not be right.
it feels like that's not correct at all. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Even for flaps 3, flaps 3, you're carrying a lot more energy in
Yeah,
anyway.
okay.
But he seems like the controls are delayed. And I was thinking like, that actually, you know what? Maybe that could be that the actual like action or at least you make an input and what the plane does is delayed enough that when you're in that last 50 feet, so when you're crossing the threshold to touchdown, basically, that it's just something goes really wonky with that, right? And so, that's been my major gripe. As far as the flight mode stuff, I don't know if I've ever had it. Like if you select manage, like if you're on final, you select manage because you want it to come back down and everything. I don't know if I've ever had to do that. I don't know. Anytime I've needed it to do something from a
automation
flight control panel, from an automation perspective, it really has never let me down. Where it's let me down is a lot of the flying, actual hand flying.
I've noticed on takeoff last couple of times, like it's been all over the place. Strangely,
yeah,
a little more than
I remember. We had the Tokyo Drift version of this aircraft when it first came out, and that was kind of that was a really big thorn in everybody's side because you touch down and then you just go right off the runway because the ground handling, like it acted like it had zero inertia.
Right.
Like it just boom and then bam right off, and you're like,
yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of movement that, but they've fixed a lot of that, and and of course it's improving. Obviously the 319 and the 321 and the Sharklets are kind of their next. That's the next phase of this, and then who knows what's beyond that? Is it another Airbus product? What is it? So,
right.
It's a good add-on. That's what I'm going to say. I think that they set a benchmark for texture quality, for fidelity at a price point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think definitely for all three of those things, people really enjoy it. It's an A320, so you have plenty of operators to choose from.
It's endless. Endless.
It's
truly endless.
Yeah.
The one thing you don't get is normally you're not going to do any freight ups. If you love a freighter, which you can go do in the 737, which is fun.
There's a A320. There's one.
Okay. The 321, there's some freight operations, but we don't.
Yeah, there's a passenger to freighter as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but in general, no. All right. So, which actually brings us to this plane, right?
Oh yes.
So here we have the FS Labs A320. Yes. A320. And
one
of course
A321
and they have a 321.
That's the A321.
Yeah, this is the 321. Okay, I wasn't 100% sure. Can't tell from that angle.
Yeah. The door gives it away. This door right here.
Sorry,
the second door.
My bad. But let me say, this was on your list. It's on my list. We had it kind of in different places. I'm not literally ranking because I feel like that's almost too much to ask. But
it is.
Labs is king.
Yes, it is. Sorry, no. I just looked at Pink's comment. He said "at me, cowards." It's funny.
He said what?
He said "at me," like as in like
yes, gotcha.
Like highlight, yeah.
Yes.
"At me, cowards." But anyway, so no. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I really don't care. I think this flies better. Than the.
I agree.
I think this flies better. I know you and I agree, but there's a lot of people like, oh no, it can. It's MSFS. I'm like, they did an external flight model on this, and they did the same with their Concorde. So I don't get this whole like MSF. Yeah, maybe in the base sim it probably would fly like crap,
right?
But it didn't, and they didn't do that. And this thing flies better. If I had a choice, right, it's going to be this. Okay, if I had when it comes to Microsoft Flighter. And I know we've talked with Scott, and we've talked to this is for a hardcore sim crowd. I really do. I think, obviously they have some kind of like DRM kind of piracy, issues in the past. And like, okay. I'm in more of the line of like, forgive and forget, whatever, but as far as like what they produce, right? Like this add-on is just amazing. The sounds amazing. I think the thing where they get let down is the 3D model. And that's a little part P3D, and just kind of the 3D model is good, but it's not. Excuse me, it's good, but it's not. They're like, that's not why they're making the add-on. This isn't like that. It's not like Captain Sim. It would be nice, because obviously Phoenix have showed that they can do something that looks great and is also very high fidelity
100%.
on the back end. But no, from the GSX integration to the EFB, where you can order pizza off your EFB. So I was told that this actually happened during a live stream. Somebody ordered a pizza off of the FS Labs EFB because it connects right to the internet.
The best EFB in the business. Yeah. Period.
It's got live. It is the best EFB in the business. It's got live traffic, live weather. If you have Active Sky, it even has the air. It even has. Yes, it does. Yeah. It has the it even has the airspace boundaries. If you're on VATSIM or iVal, it puts the airspace boundaries in your EFB. It's just the CPDLC is integrated. It works 100%
GSX
as advertised.
Amazing.
You can do that. You can even pull perf data.
Yes.
For the ACARS.
Their CPDLC ACARS piece is way past everyone else that I've seen.
Yeah.
Way past it.
Yeah.
I mean, that performance data that you get is it's top notch.
And that's not even the EFB one. That's the one that it pulls from the computer. Now, of course, it's pulling it from a calculator. It's not pulling it from a real ACARS source.
But in terms of immersion, oh please. I mean, it's
they're definitely next level. This does have the 8.33 kilohertz because they retro graded it into the aircraft, and so
right. They haven't stopped supporting this aircraft. I mean, they're not going to really develop for it, but they haven't completely forgotten about it either.
Yeah, and so the rumor has been that this is this specific aircraft, the A321, is going to be their first aircraft in MSFS. I think somebody said they saw some picture of it was Andrew Wilson and he was flying in on MSFS. And,
right, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. That's it. And now
who knows?
We're reading the tea leaves now, but
that's
a lot of
tea
leaves
reading.
Yeah.
But so I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, listen, I don't know exactly what they're going to do because they are so closed mouth about these things. But I will say that maybe it's for the harder core group than Phoenix. I have no idea. We'll see where they come in with pricing. There's a lot of possibilities there. But if it is to the same standards and probably better in MSFS than it is in P3D, this is going to be a hands down winner. It's going to be hands down.
100%.
Really looking for it.
I think people are going to be really impressed and shocked. I know. And here's my thing is, I think the joke, it'll be the last joke, because I remember when it first came out, Phoenix was kind of like ripping on FS Labs. They had the little joke with the little cassette that had test.exe on it. Which was and I'm just kind of like, I think if they do make an add-on that's going to be better, which it is already, by the way, like and I know that's our opinion, but there's a lot of people who do agree to have both. It's just that a lot of people don't want to deal with P3D anymore. I don't blame you.
Sure.
I don't blame you. So like, that's the biggest handicap of this add-on is the sim it's in. It's not the add-on itself. The add-on itself is fantastic.
No.
The sounds are great. Everything you get with it's great. This is the only add-on in P3D that simulates icing on the actual fuselage as well.
Right, you can go get de-iced.
Or no, I think Majestic might do that.
Whatever, but you can go get de-iced.
But when you de-ice, you really de-ice and things like that. And so there's just a lot of quality of life that this add-on has. I think they set a lot of trends, broke a lot of boundaries, and I'm hoping for success for them.
And which actually makes me wonder. When they talked about some updates to the core for their commercial customers the other day, Lefteris made a reference to that. I was like, I'd love to know what they're actually doing for commercial, but they don't talk about that either. So if anybody knows, put it in the chat. So I have I've got one here that we're gonna put. It's a GA plane. And
yes, you are High Ping, you are right. The amount of intersect. I'm also monitoring chat, Dulles, so that's my fault. But the amount of intersection data you get every intersection feasible. Which, as we found out, is not an easy piece of data to get, especially
Very
here in
challenging.
North America. It's very much proprietary and it's company based. So the fact that they got it and they got stuff for here in North America, that's another insane part of it, because it's got every, like, if you go to Atlanta, it's got like Mike Charlie, it's got it's got all the intersections there that you could ever want. And so
Right.
like that's another huge piece of it as well.
Yeah,
So
their performance calculator is it's impressive. It's very
yeah.
impressive. So I've got a GA plane contribution for us, and that's the A2A Comanche. So the
yes.
GA world in MSFS is actually very full of high quality add-ons. Where it's a very fortunate place to be. But I think a lot of people were waiting for A2A to come. Now why? Well, because of what they call now AccuSim 2.0, where essentially, they have built, again, like some have, but ground up flight model that they are going to be using presumably for most or all of their planes that they bring to MSFS. And I think without question, everyone who has touched this airplane themselves, touched in the real world, whatever, have all come away saying this add-on is the first to truly blur that line between sim and real-world immersion in terms of the flight model. And initially, when it came out, which was last summer, they had it with some outside the sim elements. They have brought those inside the package that they're running, and they brought it inside the package far enough where they've actually got it on Xbox. So that tells you something about this plane. But the other thing that I think is an element of their planes is that they are labors of love too, kind of like the Concorde for FSL, where they want you to really feel like you own a Comanche in terms of how it operates in every condition, what you need to know about, what it sounds like, what it feels like, all of those elements. And I think that kind of level of detail is not unheard of, but it is certainly a hallmark of this plane. And they even made a little video that I think just kind of tells you what their thinking was about what they wanted to accomplish with this plane. It's related to a very minor sound element, which is what does the plane sound like when it's taxiing along a grass strip, which is very particular. And if you just kind of took a shot at it, I'm sure it'd be fine. But I wanted to play this for you because I think it just gives you a sense. This is from a YouTube video that A2A itself made.
Now, you're probably thinking, how did you possibly capture those ground sounds without the engine drowning out the recordings? Well, let me show you. Well, a Land Cruiser and a rope goes a long way in capturing awesome ground sounds.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking they should do that with a 737, just a Land Cruiser and some rope.
Right.
Just
Except
tie it
they should
around.
just have
We'll
some guy
drag the-
walking with it, in his teeth, like those old Guinness
We'll
Book
just-
of World Records moves.
We'll just taxi around with it like that. We'll get Swagger on it. We'll go down the Delta.
So-
we'll have him record some of the sounds.
We have another GA plane in the list. Now, both of us had this on our list. Felix had this one up a little bit higher than I did, but this is a plane from our friend of the show, Raul, over at FS Reborn. And, of course, this is the FSR M500.
Yes. Sleeper. I liked it. I love this plane. I think everybody should get it. It's a single-engine turboprop, so it I don't know if there's a lot of people that are ever going to get to fly one of these. You might, if you get all your licenses and stuff and you make a bunch of friends, but they're not cheap.
Good friends.
Yeah, good friends. Yeah. they're not cheap, but it's fun. And the way he did a lot of custom work, so you can see it right here in this picture. All of those engine gauges, this second row of engine gauges right here, that's custom. That's completely custom. He did that. He also freezes the working title code so that when he's good with it, it's frozen, and so that there aren't sim updates that don't break the your add-on, right? So even if you're on beta or whatever, and so I think that's another kind of value add that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about, is that you don't have to fear if something breaks in the sim, that your working title Garmin 1000 NXIs aren't going to work anymore, because they are. And obviously, he got a lot of real world input from pilots. He still does on this aircraft. The sounds are good. I like the interaction. I think a lot of these add-ons have these really cool little interaction pieces that they're doing now. Where like your passenger comfort, and so like how you have the environmental control system, the ECS setup, all of that's important. If you want to have a good. And the cool thing about these planes is they can get in everywhere. These planes can literally go pretty much anywhere you want them to go. Like the takeoff distance with takeoff flaps is like something like not even 1,000 feet. You know what I'm saying? Like you can go anywhere you want. And they don't fly slow. Like you can, this plane isn't as fast as say is a TBM, but you can certainly get to 250, 260 if you got a good tailwind. Now I will say going the other way, it kind of sucks, because I did one of those and it was kind of painful, but,
Wow.
taking 3 hours to go from Destin, Florida to Houston is not necessarily, a great, fun, but, I guess it beats driving, because that's not a 3-hour drive, that's for sure. But no, there's a lot of stuff that's integrated here. Obviously, he has the synthetic vision and stuff like that, And the other thing that I think people sleep on with this add-on that I see a lot of these GA people are starting to do, obviously, Black Square does it. And I would say the AccuSim A2A are the most famous for it, but the failure stuff. So when we talk about that, you have tire wear. Right. So, and it's all dependent on how hard you land. So if you're just slamming it into the runway, your tires are going to wear faster. Your brakes are going to wear faster. Right. If you're keeping the starter on past 50, it's 50%. If the starter doesn't cut out, you're wearing out the generator. There's all these sorts of things. You're wearing out the battery, right? If you just keep the battery on, you're not hooking it up to GPU. Now, realistically, unless you've got, I know this plane already costs money, but it costs a lot of money to hook a GPU up as well.
Sure.
So if you're, you're going to be, you're not going to be using the GPU a lot. I know that's more of a simism. I don't use the GPU, but it runs your battery out. If you're doing tests and stuff and you've got the battery on and you're using it, you're draining the battery power, right? And so all these things are simulated in the aircraft. And I think they're all nice little touches, right? That just kind of make it a very complete immersive experience, right?
Exactly.
So
that's the big thing. From my perspective, is how much they're trying to get you into it. But you can also just get in the plane and go fly.
Sure, absolutely.
So really has
if you don't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you can disable all that stuff. By the way, you can get in the plane, you can go and fly.
Exactly.
The way I treat GA is a lot different than airliners. I treat them as kind of like owner operator.
Sure. Which is mostly
and
true.
so like, and so like where I last took off or where I last landed, that's where I'm taking off, to do what I got to do. And
sure, no, it's go fly a Challenger because it's it's all that way.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
No. I don't want to fly the Challenger, okay? I don't need a 91 part pre-flight checklist, first day checklist, and then I got to go fuel it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I know you have it in the honorable mention.
Right.
I know you have it in an honorable mention, but Jesus Christ, man. Oh my God.
Well, that does bring us to some honorable mentions since we're coming up past our usual time, to put it mildly. So one of them, I don't have a screenshot for, apologies, is the Mad Dog. I mean, the Mad Dog's a classic, and it's available in V3D and in MSFS. And I don't know about you, but I personally love an MD call out of things that I can't understand anything the lady's saying, particularly when she keeps telling me that I have a butt flap, but I don't know what a butt flap is. It's a great plane. It always has been.
It is. It always has been. It's the one plane that no matter the sim update, it's never broken.
Right.
So PMDG had the issue when they had the beta where it broke the parking brake. That never happened with Leonardo. It may not have the best textures, but like it's never broken. It's never has been.
And
And they updated it recently, and I can say that it flies really nice now.
yeah,
I think it flies really, really nice. I tried it out a couple.
and people complain about the sounds, and I'm like, I don't know what you're complaining about because every MD-11 pilot, MD-11, every MD-80 pilot says you can't hear squat in the
So
cockpit.
so
Stop
so
complaining.
here's the thing.
Anyway,
So here's the thing about the sounds that people use the wrong argument with the sounds. The sounds are not good. All right, I'm just going to say that. But what they're talking about is not correct, right? So you're a lawyer, so you understand. You may be right, but you have to frame the argument correctly, right, in order to
of
win.
course.
And so you could be as right as you want, but it's what you can prove in court. And so it's this argument. They say, oh well, obviously the engines are not. They don't sound right. Yeah, no crap. The engines are 120 feet behind you.
Right.
And there's 400 knots of wind blowing past your face.
Right.
Of course, you're not going to hear them. You're not going to hear
Right.
them on takeoff. Now, where I will say their sounds are lacking, they've used the same sound set for the switches and all the packs coming on and all that for like the last 20 years. And that's where I'm like, you guys need to go out and try to record some new sounds. Like this
Fair
is.
enough.
But they're also, by the way, they're a part-time developer. Right. So that's why add-ons take forever. That's why these guys love the MD-11. It's their passion project. I say that's another add-on, by the way, that has Hoppy CPDLC that has a really good ACARS. It has, for MSFS, it actually has weather radar. They bit the bullet and were like, you know what, we're just going to use it. Even though it's not necessarily accurate. And they're getting out of their old ways of using an external client. I wish you didn't have to, but like I think you can actually now do a flight where you don't need to run the external client at all. And so
I don't know. I can't remember for sure. I haven't used it in a while, but it's a classic. It is. And when it came to MSFS, I enjoyed it there too. It's one of those planes I do find where having like an FS to crew is really helpful because it's not a terribly logical plane. Like somebody scattered brain tried to make a plane.
I can't play it here, but I have a recording of the of somebody who like basically just like crapped on the plane. It's funny. I'll put it in the chat later, not our chat, but our chat.
Yes,
not the
understand.
Channel chat, because it's definitely not appropriate, but it's hilarious.
So in our other collection of sort of of honorable mentions, we have one that I think again is a really solid, great plane. We may feel time to time a little harsh on the sim that it's in, but that's the Tolis products.
Yes.
Generally.
Just in general, by the way, not just this product, but all of their products are really top notch for what you're getting.
The one thing on the Tolis in particular, and we said it before, and I'll say it again: best save state that anyone has ever come up with.
Oh man, it's
so good.
It's one of those ones that if you were getting your type rating, I would almost like. I know FS Labs, you can use FS to crew. I would almost caution you just to get this. Just because the save state, if you were like, I need to be exactly at this altitude at this airspeed when I start this, it will do that. And it doesn't skip a beat. You literally start it. As soon as you're loaded in, it's right there. There's no weird where it's like trying to catch up to the altitude
or
figure
out
the plane's trying to roll around where it's at. No, it just automatically like, bam, you're right there. I've even used this save state is so effective that we've done it in shared flights and it works. That's how good it is. Like we've done it where we've dropped off on a shared flight using this. It was shared. What is it? Shared cockpit. Whatever the one that is it shared? No, it is actually shared flight. Yeah, the one that JSnap had made. No, where we've dropped off and like we tell, hey, you need to pause. My sim crashed. We load up the sim. We load it up and it's right there and no real issues. So. Yeah, Tolis definitely. I know if Black Box 711 uses it, that it's good. because for systems wise, because I don't think there's a lot of add-ons that he uses that are not like.
No, and he'll.
You
I mean,
know.
and in fact, the other day he was using the X-Plane 12 beta at 12.1. He was flying the Dulles, and people always ask him, and he says, "The system-wise, it's a great plane."
Yeah.
Everybody.
I would say
has
that the fonts and stuff. I would say that was my biggest gripe with Phoenix as well. Is the fonts are little. I know people are going to kill me about that, but like, there's a part of it that it's just like the logo for FedEx has an arrow in it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the same concept there. Yeah.
A couple of last honorable mentions. We had the Black Square TBM 850, which you've been flying, and I think are very happy and impressed with.
I like that. I mean, I learned so much about that plane that I was like, wow, this is an amazing plane. Much less the simulated version of it.
Yeah, and I have the Annie-Builds A300 on my list, and yeah, it's an A to B plane, but we need that, and it's very nicely modeled. I found it to be very reliable. New later updates have helped it too. And I think Annie-Builds has consistently showed that they're going to bring more and more stuff to the market that we want, and we need that. They're working on they got this A300. They're working on the A350. An A380 is going to come behind it at some point. Those are all, particularly A350, A380. Those are complex airliners, and I'm really hoping that we can put them on that list when they get here as well.
Yeah.
So well. We've come up on, my goodness, almost an hour and a half. So we appreciate whoever is still with us or who has tuned in today. We appreciate it. If you have not subscribed, don't forget to hit subscribe. If you like the video, smash the thumbs up, blah, blah, blah. Ring the bell if you want to know.
Ring the bell, smash the thumbs up.
Right, right. But
we're working on some guests and things up down the pipeline.
We are definitely working on some guests and some other topics for shows to come. And we thank you all for joining us. And I'm going to play us out now.
All right, thank you.
Maybe. No, it's not going to play us out now. Forget that. Well, so much for the idea that I might play us out. I thought I had the right.
It's fine. I understand.
Hey, what do I know? Right, exactly. Let's try it one more time.